Ever watch a movie that just stays with you? Like, it's not just popcorn entertainment, it's actually made you think.
Absolutely. There's a reason certain films stick with us while others fade away.
And today's deep dive is all about uncovering those secrets. We're diving headfirst into the world of movie scripts, the blueprints for cinematic magic. You shared some fascinating notes on this, so we're going beyond the surface level here.
It's amazing how a script, just words on a page, can spark such powerful emotions and experiences on screen.
Right, so let's break it down. Our first source dives into the story itself. Seems obvious, but it emphasizes going beyond just the plot.
Exactly. It's about finding the big idea, that underlying message that resonates long after the credits roll.
Give me an example. What's a movie where the big idea really packs a punch?
Think about The Matrix. On the surface, it's a visually stunning action film. But beneath those flashy special effects lies a deeper exploration of free will, the nature of reality, and the consequences of choice.
Whoa, yeah. I never thought of it quite like that. It's like the movie is asking you, what if your entire reality was a construct? Makes you think.
Precisely. So as you watch a film, consider this. What is it truly about? What questions or ideas linger in your mind afterward?
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion to find the heart of the story. Okay, next up, characters. This source argues that well-developed characters can make or break a movie.
Couldn't agree more. Characters are our portals into the story. We connect with their motivations, their flaws, their triumphs, and their failures. One technique this source suggests is looking for the character's misbelief.
Misbelief. What's that?
It's the flawed assumption or belief that's driving their actions, often rooted in their past experiences. Think about Michael Corleone in The Godfather. His misbelief might be that he can maintain his own moral code while also protecting his family's criminal empire.
And that conflict, that internal struggle makes him such a compelling and tragic figure.
Right. So when you're analyzing a character, try to pinpoint their misbelief. What are they clinging to that might be holding them back or leading them down a destructive path?
This is giving me a whole new lens for watching movies. Now, this next source digs into the structure of a script, which sounds technical at first, but it's really about how the story unfolds to keep us hooked.
Think of structure as the architecture of the story. A well-structured script has a beginning, middle, and end, but it also includes pivotal moments that shift the game and keep the audience engaged. These are often called turning points.
Okay, so it's not just a straight line from point A to point B. There are twists and turns along the way.
Exactly. A turning point is a moment in the plot where the protagonist's situation irrevocably changes, raising the stakes and propelling the story in a new direction. A great example is in Star Wars, A New Hope.
Oh, I bet I know what you're going to say. Luke's just a farm boy on Tatooine, bored out of his mind.
And then, bam, Princess Leia's message appears, thrusting him into a galaxy-spanning adventure. That's a turning point.
That's such a classic example. It's like the entire fate of the galaxy hinges on that one moment. So when we're watching a movie, we should be looking for those moments where everything changes for the characters.
Absolutely. Those turning points are often where the real excitement and drama unfold.
It's like the story goes from 0 to 60 in a matter of seconds. Okay, moving on, let's talk dialogue. Now, I know dialogue is how characters talk to each other, but this source mentions something called subtext. What exactly is subtext?
It's the art of saying one thing while meaning another. It's about those unspoken tensions, hidden agendas, and emotional undercurrents that simmer beneath the surface of a conversation.
Ooh, I love that. It's like a secret language between the characters.
Exactly. Think about a Quentin Tarantino film like Pulp Fiction. The dialogue is sharp, witty, and often hilarious, but it's also laced with subtext. Take the scene where Vincent Vega and Jules Winfield are discussing a hamburger before they go on a hit. They're talking about something seemingly mundane, but the subtext reveals a lot about their characters, their relationship, and the dangerous world they inhabit.
It's like those scenes where you can practically feel the tension crackling between the characters, even if they're not explicitly saying what they mean.
Precisely. Paying attention to subtext can completely change your understanding of a scene and reveal hidden layers of meaning. Now, speaking of hidden meanings, this source also dives into the fascinating world of themes and motifs.
Ah, yes, themes. We touched upon that earlier with The Matrix and its exploration of free will, but what about motifs? Those always seemed a bit more elusive to me.
A motif is a recurring element, an object, a color, a sound, a line of dialogue that takes on symbolic meaning and adds to the overall thematic resonance of the story.
Got it. It's not just a random detail, it's intentionally placed there to reinforce a larger idea.
Exactly. Think about the color red in The Sixth Sense.
Mhm.
It's not just a random color choice, it's a recurring motif that subtly hints at danger, the supernatural, and the presence of ghosts throughout the entire film.
Wow, I never noticed that. I'm gonna have to rewatch that movie with fresh eyes. It's like the filmmaker is planting these clues, inviting us to unravel the deeper meaning.
Precisely. And the more you pay attention to these motifs, the more you'll appreciate the filmmaker's craft and the layers of meaning they weave into their stories. Now, this next source really caught my eye. It talks about visualizing the script even before seeing the movie.
Ooh, this sounds interesting. I'll admit I sometimes struggle to picture things in my mind when I'm reading. Do you have any tips for seeing a script?
Absolutely. One effective technique is to pay close attention to the descriptions. Often they contain clues about the atmosphere, the lighting, even the camera angles the director might use.
So we can actually start to imagine what the movie will look like just from the words on the page.
Exactly. For instance, if a scene is described as dark and claustrophobic, you might envision dim lighting, tight close-ups, maybe even a handheld camera to heighten the tension. Let's take an example from Inception, which you mentioned earlier.
One of my all-time favorites.
Remember the scene where Cobb and Ariadne are manipulating the architecture of a dream? The script doesn't just say they changed the buildings. It describes those buildings folding in on themselves, defying gravity, creating a sense of vertigo and disorientation.
Oh, I remember that scene. It was visually mind-blowing.
Even just reading those descriptive words on the page,
Yeah.
you can start to get a sense of the visual spectacle the director is going for.
It's like the screenwriter is painting a picture with words, and we as readers get to bring that picture to life in our minds.
Precisely. And the more vividly you can visualize the script, the more immersive and engaging the experience, both in reading it and eventually watching it come to life on screen.
It's like we get to be mini directors in our own heads. We're not just passively absorbing the story, we're actively constructing it alongside the filmmakers.
Exactly. And that active engagement enhances the whole experience. Speaking of which, should we recap some of the key takeaways from today's deep dive into movie scripts?
Yes, let's do it. My notepad is overflowing with insights already.
First and foremost, remember that a good story goes beyond just the plot points. Look for the big idea, the underlying themes, and the questions the film raises. Those are the things that will stay with you long after the credits roll.
It's like that old saying, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Or, in this case, it's not just about what happens, it's about why it matters.
Perfectly put. And speaking of journeys, let's not forget about characters. Pay attention to their motivations, their flaws, and especially their misbeliefs. Those flawed assumptions can reveal so much about what makes a character tick.
It's like that aha moment when you realize why a character makes a certain choice, even if it seems illogical on the surface.
Exactly. Now, don't underestimate the importance of structure. Look for those turning points, those moments that change the game for the characters and propel the story forward.
Those turning points are like the plot twists that leave you on the edge of your seat, dying to know what happens next. They're the moments you talk about with your friends after the movie's over.
Absolutely. And while you're discussing those moments, remember to dissect the dialogue.
Yeah.
What lies beneath the words themselves? What is the subtext telling you about the characters and their relationships?
It's like that feeling when you know there's more to a conversation than meets the eye. Like those moments in a Jane Austen novel where a simple exchange of pleasantries is actually loaded with social tension.
You've got it. Now, let's not forget about the visual language of film.
Yeah.
Even if you're just reading a script, pay attention to those vivid descriptions that bring the story to life in your mind.
It's like the difference between reading a grocery list and losing yourself in a beautifully written novel. One is purely functional, while the other transports you to another world entirely.
I like that analogy. And finally, keep an eye out for those recurring themes and motifs. They're the subtle threads that weave a tapestry of meaning throughout the film.
They're like those Easter eggs that filmmakers hide for attentive viewers to discover.
Yeah.
Once you start noticing them, it's hard to stop. It adds a whole new layer of enjoyment to the experience.
Couldn't agree more. So next time you settle in for a movie night,
Don't forget your detective hat. We've got work to do. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, happy watching.